Hello YouTube, my guest today is Martin Soan, performance artist, comedy promoter and creator of the Great Shaun Legs. How you doing, Martin?
I'm fine, thank you, Dave.
Thanks for coming around my house to look at my computer.
Pleasure. It's a lovely computer.
It is, it's one of my favourite computers. And so you wanted me in the intro, you wanted me to call you a performance artist, didn't you? Not a comedian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how you see yourself now, kind of.
It is, yeah. I wanted to reinvent myself. I wanted to get off the circuit, basically.
Yeah.
Because it's pointless. They don't pay you anything. So, yeah.
And you get paid more being a performance artist?
Well, I felt... I don't get paid any more, but at least, I'm not a comedian not getting paid. I'm a performance artist not getting paid.
Oh, okay, yeah. It sounds better, right?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot more potential to earn cash being a performance artist.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
Well, there's a lot of comics on there.
Yeah.
But we'll get on to that in a sec. But first, we're gonna look at where you grew up, right?
Yeah.
It's the first place we're gonna look.
Forest Gate.
This virtual tour of your life.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Forest Gate in London, right?
Yeah. These
we're gonna have
shops
to
here.
not touch this because it just picks up on the microphone. Yeah. Sorry, I should have told you that.
That's quite all right.
Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah, these shops are now Martin's News
Martin,
Agent.
that's you, man.
Yeah, so that has been called Martin's News Agent for over 60 years.
So when you were living there, was that quite exciting as a young man?
I got used to it.
Did you ever steal stuff from there just because you felt like you could?
No, never stole anything from that particular news.
No, that's
you would be stupid stealing from the news agents just a few doors away from where you live. But I remember buying my Beano and Beezer and Jubblies and all sorts in there, yeah.
And where was your house?
Second one on the corner here, that one there.
Oh yeah.
But if you go up this road here, I think this is Seabert, is it road? See, I was very lucky where I live, Ridley, that's right. Very lucky where I lived because I had the Wanstead Flats, Wanstead Park, Epping Forest. So I had the best of both worlds, sort of like a bit of nature. And then, off to Portobello, to the Tower, through Blackwall Tunnel and stuff like that on our bikes. So it was great.
Is the flats, right? Oh, what's happening there? Sports Day.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it?
Sports Day.
So these are, big open flats. When I was a kid, there still was Nissen huts, full of Nissen huts.
Be careful of the table, sorry, yeah.
Nissen huts all over there.
What, sorry?
Nissen huts for sort of people that have been bombed out, so it's temporary residence.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sort of like half shelters sort of thing.
Wow.
So it's a great place to grow up.
And how long did you live here until?
Till I was about 13, I think, something like that. I was certainly in secondary school.
Yeah.
And my dad had won the football pools.
Oh, wow.
He was part of a syndicate, but he was a bit canny, my dad, so he kept it quiet from all the family, chose the moment, and suddenly uprooted us, moved us out to this little village in Essex.
Hang on, why did he not tell you? Well, he kept it as a surprise, and he was...
Well, not as a surprise, no, just I suppose he didn't want the family sort of like scrabbling for money.
So when did you find out?
Not until I grew up.
Really?
Yeah, so he paid off the mortgage on the house in London and bought a house outright for £3,500. £3,500.
Yeah.
So I think they only won something like £12,000 between five of them or four of them or something. I don't know the details, but it wasn't a great deal of money, but enough money to sort of like £3,500 to buy a house, man. It's quite amazing. So I was uprooted from the East End and plonked in this small village outside of Halstead, and I was doing all right at school. But as soon as I moved out in the country, everything went wrong.
Went off the rails. All right, let's look at where you went off the rails. So this is that's not. So this is it, right? So Halstead in Essex.
Yeah. Down the bottom of the hill is Coulthard's Mill. So if you travel down the hill, and when I was 16, I got my very first job working nights. I think it's right down the bottom of the hill. Working nights as an apprentice in a weaving shed.
Oh, wow.
So I used to work 10 hours a night, so I only did 4 days. I think it's just at the corner here on the left. So you knock off on a Friday morning. The mill's just to the left now. There's a bit of a river. It's at the end there, you can see it. Yeah. Knock off a Friday morning, get on a motorbike, bomb up to London, because I just hated living down here. That's it. There's the mill there, that white building right at the very end there. Yeah. And then I didn't have to get back to work until Monday night. So it was a bit like, 4 days. It's now what is it? It's a restaurant. Yeah. I have 33 machines in there.
33 machines.
33 machines. Wow. They were all weaving Terralin, I think it was.
Yeah.
And so you just, they used to fuck up every now and again. You used to have to fix the weft and warp and stuff like that. And I carried on doing that for about a year and a half, coming up to town all the time, and started doing Punch and Judy on the streets.
Which is how you started in comedy, right?
Which is how I started in comedy. And that's a bit of a fluke, because I just wanted to get away from Essex, get away from London for a bit, and be beside the sea. So there was 2 jobs. I had a creative bent, I felt. So I sort of like tossed a coin between being a tattooist or a Punch and Judy man.
You thought about being a tattooist?
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, because it was
in the days before they're like... It was different back then.
Yeah.
Now everyone's got a tattoo.
Yeah, I wanted to get out Stratford, because there's nothing happening in Stratford. Yeah. And I dropped being a tattooist because there was no future in it. And subsequently, Stratford's the sort of like epicentre of everything. And I'll be worth a fortune now if I'd done tattooing. But also, to be honest, tattooing, I just didn't really fancy sort of like hurting big beefy sailors. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I never thought about like that. Yeah.
Because that's all the only people, them and Hell's Angels were the only people who got tattooed in those days. So,
So how was it for you? I want to talk about how it was for you, the transition from moving from London out into Essex. It must be very, very different.
Yeah, I didn't handle it well at all.
At that age as well, like 13, that's like...
Yeah, because I just the accent, you know what I mean? So I went to school, they said, "What's your name?" And I went, "Sound, sir." And I went, "Ooh," like that, and took the piss out of my accent.
Yeah.
This is the days before EastEnders. Now I've go out in the middle of nowhere in Wales, and they all talk like Londoners, because of EastEnders. But in those days, they took the piss out of me, and it wasn't. I was sensitive. I just sort of I was lonely, really, and gravitated towards other like-minded people, and that's basically the beginning of my downfall, really.
And what do you mean by like-minded people?
Well, people that were just sort of, looking for something else, basically, which I most certainly was, So I was really attracted to this one pub in Colchester. I think you've got this down there, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Called the Headgate. And it's up here.
Which is now, it's an estate agents now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so in there, yeah. So I was attracted. Actually, that could have been the Headgate. And there's a back garden anyway.
Oh, yeah, this pub.
Yeah, that could be it. I swear it was in the corner. But anyway, it's a long time ago. So I was really attracted to sort of like this pub in particular, but obviously because of the people who went in there. So I did build up my confidence, went in there. I suppose, I was 16. Didn't ask me for any identification. Got a pint. Very nervously drank the whole lot very quickly. And then someone handed me a joint. Never had any drugs at all. So I took a puff on this joint and went out into the back garden and felt very sick. Climbed up this tree and puked up through the tree, basically. Felt a little bit better. Then this voice piped up from next to me, which surprised me. He said, "Hey, man, take this to make you feel better." So I went, "Yeah, okay," like an idiot. Took it, and he said, "Look, here's my phone number. Give us a call tomorrow." He'd given me acid. So I came down out of the tree. So it was 1 pint, a joint, and a tab of acid was my introduction. And it literally blew my mind. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, where I was going, but I enjoyed every single minute of it. And I sort of heard stories about taking a trip, and I thought it was this drug that just made you feel like you were tripping up all the time, not realising at all that what it was really about. But yeah, it was fantastic. And basically from that moment on, my whole emphasis to life and my outlook just tilted immediately,
So it was really that life-changing then?
It was, yeah.
And did you call that guy again?
I did, yeah. What happened? So I rang up next day. I said, "Hey, that was genius, man." He said, "You okay? You okay?" I said, "Yes, fucking loved it. It was brilliant." He said, "Come on round." So I said, "Yeah." So I go round there, and he says, "Do you know Eastgate Street?" So I go, "Yeah." He says, "Take that to number 88." So it was a big lump of dope. So I was 16, and I looked like a girl. I had a school uniform on, and I was riding around Colchester with a bag full of dope and just dropping it off at houses and shit like that.
So he had you working for him?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He gave me, he paid me in dope. So I used to get this dope, take it back home, put it secretly somewhere in my bedroom, and only have like one joint a week, which I was very careful.
Wow.
So I
never get high on your own supply.
Yeah, stockpiling all this resin, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So how long did that go on for?
I suppose I moved back to town when I was about 17. So it was only for about a year.
Yeah. What do you think your parents would have done if they found out about that?
What, about the drug taking?
Yeah.
Well, they eventually did, yeah. I got made a wall to court.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I moved out of home when I was 15 and moved into this squat in Colchester, 88, I don't know, I can't remember the name of the road. So I lived with all these nutcases, and we were stealing and doing all sorts. And so, yeah, the acid must have been when I was 15, that's right, rather than 16. So I was still at school, yeah. So it was, and eventually we got caught, and I got made a ward of court, which meant I had to go back home. So I was 15. I went back home for a few months, and then I was off again, basically.
So who did you meet there? Did you meet any characters in this squat that you remember?
God, yeah, man, yeah. Shane Manga, who was the illegitimate child of a Hell's Angel and his English mother. Waff, yeah, we're all nuts, all sort of like hippies. But there's this one guy called Tom, who was very good looking, with short hair, and he was a bit different, but he was a bully.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we used to get into trouble with him, and I had to run away from Tom occasionally because I had a crush on his girl. So he used to do things like beat me up, and then, like, in this sort of like bizarre sort of like homoerotic sort of East End gangster type way, then after beating me up, used to sort of like cuddle me and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah, which was as terrifying as getting beaten up.
That's classic abusive behaviour.
Yeah, I remember one night he kept me in the room, and he got hold of his girlfriend's stiletto heels like that, and if I moved, he whacked me with his stiletto heels. Kept me in this room for the whole night. I escaped next morning, and basically I had to run away from Colchester because it was getting quite nasty,
And where did you go from there? Back to London?
Back to London, yeah. Went to Shepherd's Bush, actually.
Do you want to look at that? Or?
Yeah, I'm easy.
I could type then. So what was happening in Shepherd's Bush?
What job did I get? For Plessy, I was a wireman for a bit, wiring up telephone exchanges before the days of digital. And so I worked in Turnham Green and a few other places, Romford, but basically I was living with a mate of mine in Old Oak Road, number 8 Old Oak Road.
Old Oak Road.
Yeah. And that's when I started doing Punch and Judy on the streets, sort of almost full time, really, at the weekends.
So that was fairly quickly something you could make money from.
Well, yeah, I did really well with bottling on the street, yeah. And the Great Shaun legs comes out of the idea that I had a booth that strapped on my back, so I could walk around doing the Punch and Judy show at the same time. So that, hence, the Greatest Show on Legs.
So that was totally your idea, right?
Yeah. I think we were on a corner.
Malcolm kind of came along later, right?
Yeah, it came along sort of like, I don't know, when it was 10 years later. I'm really bad at
so you'd been doing it for ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dates and stuff like that.
So let's show, I think we've gotten here the place where you did your Punch and Judy. It was the Tower of London, wasn't it? Right.
Yeah.
So this is where you So you were doing street performing to
Yeah,
begin with,
yeah. I did shows to my mates in the flat because I was really, really nervous. I wasn't really a natural performer, had no training or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what I was doing. It was on the other side of this building here. And yeah, I've told you already, but I suppose in terms of, for your podcast, yeah. So I discovered by accident a piece of land that neither the Metropolitan Police or the City of London Police felt,
around here, right?
Yeah, felt they had jurisdiction over.
Yeah.
So it was just a tiny strip. And of course, I was in the best place to be in London, basically, in terms, and me who'd never done a show before, it took me a little while to suss out from talking to people, other street performers, that I found a brilliant place,
Yeah.
And there used to be an escalator in the old days that went up to the upper level, and I used to get such big crowds that they were standing on the escalator, and for some reason, when there's excessive weight on the escalator, it reverses.
Really?
So yeah, it was bizarre. Absolutely true. So they're all going up like this, looking over, and some of them were walking backwards because they could see into the booth from above. And suddenly, the whole lot went backwards. In the end, I used to sort of not encourage it, but I used to allow the audience to, to sort of imagine that I had some sort of control over the escalator.
Yeah. So if you didn't have a natural inclination for performing, what is it? You were like, I need to do something. Let's do this.
I just didn't want to end up factory fodder. So that, I had been brought up, been told that I was thick. I had been brought up saying you're going to be working in a factory all your life, basically. Yeah. And I wanted to escape that. And now with the sort of like passport of drugs, I knew there was something else out there. So, it was just, I overcame my shyness and everything like that. But remember, I was hidden because I was in a Punch and Judy booth. So, just to meet people, just to get out of, the mundane life I had, working, and I'm getting nothing for it, basically. It's a bit like you young people today, really, you know what I mean? Working, and your extortionate rents, etc., etc. But, it wasn't so different in those days. But, and to meet girls, of course.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing girls like better than a guy in a Punch and Judy tent, right?
Yeah. Well, a certain type of girl, yeah. So I did attract girls.
Yeah.
So, I met Swiss girls and German girls.
So you just chat to the tourists?
Yeah, afterwards, yeah. I mean, but I was just learning about how to control a crowd, how to be in front of a bunch of people, you know what I mean? So the audiences, they were small, really, but to me, they were massive, do you know what I mean? If I got more than like 12 people, it was like a huge rush. And you sort of, it took me years and years and years before I sort of suddenly something clicked and I realised, I can maybe make this work for myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In other ways.
And how did that show transition into the show with Malcolm Hardee?
Well, when Malcolm first joined, it was still a Punch and Judy show, and so he was the interpreter outside, and so he used to interpret Punch's voice, so people could understand what he was saying by repetition, basically, and then handing a hat round and collecting the money. So we did that for 2 years, 3 years, and then he got put away. And
what did he get arrested for?
First, second, or third time?
First time.
First time it was just theft, fraud, something else. I can't remember. It was all pretty tame stuff, nothing horrible. Yeah. But it was unfortunate the third time he got arrested because he was actually being a good citizen. But he was working at Grey Line cab firm when he got a call from an old con that he had known inside to pick him up at this address, which he did do, dropped him off somewhere else. He was out on remand or something, I don't know. But then he read in a newspaper rag that there'd been these rapes committed in this area. So he put 2 and 2 together, rang up the police and gave them the tip-off about this guy.
Yeah.
They interview the guy, he says yes, owns up to it, said, but Malcolm was in on it.
Really?
Yeah. So the police said, look, we're going to have to charge you, but it's just something we have to do, and don't worry.
Yeah.
But when it came to the court case, he got put down got put down for 3 years and got off, I think, after.
But why would he
18.
ring up? It doesn't make much sense.
Malcolm, what? Ring up the police?
Yeah, if he was implicated. Do you know what I mean? You would have thought that would...
Well, he didn't realise the bloke was going to say, he put him up to it. He just said, I think this might be your guy, I don't know, but, So they did question him, and he admitted it straight away, the guy. Yeah. But that's it. It was unfortunate. But when Malcolm was inside, we then communicated with each other and said, right, when you get out, we're going to jump out of the booth and start doing a comedy show, which we did do.
We've got Malcolm's Tunnel Club on here, haven't we?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. This is a very
years
famous
later.
venue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we're jumping forward in time a little bit. But what are your experiences of the Tunnel Club? What are some memories that you have there?
Well, it was like some sort of a cross between a medieval jousting tournament and a post-Holocaust cabaret. Do you know what I mean? It was crazy, and just you didn't know what to expect. And in those days, heckling was, wasn't as frowned upon as it is now. I mean, I don't encounter any heckling, do you?
It happens, but pretty rarely. But here, from what I've heard, obviously I've just heard stories, but here it was like actively encouraged, right?
Malcolm used to love it,
yeah.
And the audience used to love a good heckle as well. And there's still a few old timers that come down to my club, and they say they miss the heckling.
Really?
They're not into sort of like destroying an act. Do you know what I mean? But just it adds to the whole atmosphere. And some of the laughs, to be perfectly frank, were a lot better than the acts.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing 20 minutes, so and obviously for a heckler, it's 15 seconds, and their comedy career is over, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it was just really, really great, and everything was new, everything was vibrant. It was sort of like a bit. What's the word? Recherche. Wow, recherche.
I don't know what that means.
Well, it means sort of like, if I got some music, that's really, really cool and I love it, but no one else knows about it, then it becomes recherche. So this is a bit of secret.
It felt like your own little world.
Yeah. So people used to come from South London, and then obviously because of the Blackwall Tunnel, North London. So there's a right sort of mix there.
Yeah.
North meets South. And just anybody that was on the comedy scene at that time, and people that even weren't on the comedy scene at that time, gravitated to there, and invariably ended up on stage in some sort of fashion. There was no rules, and it was rough and ready, but like I say, had tons of energy and really vibrant, and so if you went there, you knew you were going to have a great time. Malcolm was really, really clever about opening up the club, and years later we would talk, and he said, "Do you know what, Mark? You know what? The secret of a good club, how to open a good club?" And I said, "Go on, Malcolm, tell me." He said, 1, get a coke dealer. 2, get some flashy women. And 3, get a celebrity. I said, what about the exes? He said, I don't fucking money. But it worked for him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a big coke den, and it was awful. It was awful, but great at the same time.
And because that sounds so, it just sounds so crazy. And like, as I understand it wasn't just stand-ups, right? There was...
Oh, yeah.
Because nowadays a comedy club is pretty much just stand-ups on the bill, whereas then you had like much more character.
Well, it's changing a little bit through my club. I mean, I book.
Except for your club, obviously.
I book one stand-up per show, basically.
Okay, yeah. So you've kind of, your place has kind of kept that going.
Yeah. It did disappear completely. Yeah. Well, there was no nutcases around. Mm-hmm. It was all sort of polished stand-up routines, which is great. But a whole evening of it is, to be quite frank, is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So do you think comedy's lost something now that it's kind of got this, it's very polished and this kind of air of professionalism? It's lost something, that anarchy that made it places like this.
Tell you what it's lost. It's lost 2 things, really, and that is a living. Because in those days, looking back through some of my old notes, I used to go out sort of 2 or 3 times a week. I was getting 250 quid a gig.
Yeah.
And that wasn't special, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there was only a handful of us. So, but now, so number one, there's not, it's really difficult for young acts to come through, do you know what I mean? Because you've invariably got to, hold down a full-time job. And it's, it has become, sanitized in some sort of way. But the gains is that, you learn about professionalism and the craft of it and stuff like that. So it's pros and cons. I wouldn't know what to say about the state of the circuit, really, apart from it's ridiculous to have like 4 stand-ups. Do you know what I mean? It's just mental. It's absolutely mental. Stand-up, as you know, is really sort of a specific set of skills that you need. You know what I mean? But to have 4 people demonstrating those skills, you need, you need variety, man.
I think it can work if there's there's got to be different voices, right?
Yeah.
It can work.
Yeah,
but I hear what you're saying. It's not the same as having a bill where it's like,
no,
you got music, you got this, you got that. But
yeah, but do you think the amount of stand-up clubs there are doing it? You would have thought that, oh, right, I fancy a stand-up evening, so it's sort of like, there's one maybe somewhere a month. Do you know what I mean? Full of stand-ups. As a sort of theme night. But now it's very much the standard thing, isn't it, to do? That's because it's cheap, 1 microphone, 4 people to pay. Whereas my variety, I've got loads of double acts, they've got these loads of costumes and shit like that. So it's expensive being mad.
Yeah. Let's talk about, I want to talk about
But
Bimbo
this is
Town.
years later.
That's a long time later.
Yeah, you've missed out a
big chunk.
Yeah.
So where would you go? What happened in between the
one of your questions,
Punch and Judy and this one?
Yeah, so he came out Nick, and we started coming outside of the booth.
Yep.
And we had a permanent spot at Camden Lock.
All right.
Which they could do every Sunday, basically through the winter. But then we got a van and we jumped in the back of the van. We went to Brighton College, Art College, did a show down there, and then we just travelled the coast. And we were away from London for 3 months. And that really awakened our desire for travel and getting out of London. And it was just amazing. It was like the best, most memorable holiday ever. 4 months travelling the Cornish coast. You know what I mean?
Is that, have we got the pub on there? One of those
times? And the defining moment was the at the Salcombe Inn. Yeah, so down there,
place, right? It's down this little.
Yeah, and there's a
this is inside. That's actually inside the pub.
Yeah, obviously that's been renovated from when I was there.
Well, this guy, is the one taking the photo. So what? Happened?
Right.
Yeah, so you did your show here with Malcolm.
Yeah, so we arrived here, and our sort of general thing is that we arrived at a town. Would be skint. There would be no petrol in the van. So me and Malcolm go to some local wars, nick some pork pies and stuff like that. Then suss out the pub to do the show. Then hit the beach, do the show on the beach in the daytime for the kids. And then find, usually it's a Hells Angels pub, go into the pub at night time, do exactly the same show, except Mr. Punch used to have a wank. And the Hells Angels loved it. Loved it. So that's how we've originally, and then we came outside of the Punch and Judy booth, started doing sketches, and it was our 3rd year of travelling down the coast, and we came across this place, and there was a golf club in Salcombe, and they were having a cabaret, right? Yeah. And the landlord said, "Oh, I heard about you guys. Yeah, you can do it in the garden, which goes on to the estuary. So there's a big estuary out the back." And he said, I'll print up some posters to tell everyone you're here. And he printed up the Alternative Cabaret.
Oh, and that's where the alternative comedy comes from.
That's what Malcolm always told everyone. Yeah. But it was true. He did put up a poster saying the Alternative Cabaret. And
so what else happened on this trip then when you were travelling around?
Oh, God. I mean, everything. We met sort of like all the People's Roadshow, Footsbarn Theatre, Incubus, ended up at one of the very early Glastonburys. We'd never been to a festival before, do you know what I mean? It was just everything was brand new to us. So it was like hugely sort of exciting. And me and Malcolm, just said, right, this is it. We're going to do this every summer now. Yeah. So at the end of the show here, we did a lunchtime one, and he said, "Oh, that's genius." And at the end of the show, there's a wall, and I said, "This is what show business is all about." Jumped over the sea, dived over the wall into the estuary, swam about. Yeah. Everyone rushed the edge, applause. We got about something like £110 in the hat, which was amazing. He said, "Come back this evening, do the same." So we said, "Yeah, great." At the end of the evening show, I said, "This is what show business is all about." Dived over, an idiot from London, thinking that was, a river, it wasn't as an estuary, so the tide had gone out, and I found myself diving down towards a load of mud and shopping trolleys. Ended up getting completely scratched to buggery, all streaked with red blood and then the brown of the mud. Climbed up the stairs, and I just remember sitting on a bar stool next to this old lady who kept on feeding me cider and gin mix, whilst all this mud was drying on me. And I don't know what it is. It's just sort of that will always. Me and Malcolm just loved that place. We fell in love with it.
That's great. And what was he like as a guy, Malcolm?
Malcolm, he was very intelligent, knew loads of useless facts, loved quizzes, was pretty generous, but always short-changer. Obviously a bit of a criminal, but, sort of lovable, never was violent. He enjoyed sort of like bringing people out of themselves. So he saw in me, someone who was, you need to get outside of the Punch and Judy booth and start showing off, you know what I mean? That's what he was like. And he didn't really expose much of himself. I mean, over all the years I knew him, and obviously we were very close, it's only a couple of occasions when we actually sat down and talked about, wow, can you imagine how far we've come, Malcolm? Now we're in bloody Montreal, doing a comedy festival. Now we're in Melbourne. Here we are in a strip club in Barcelona, man. This is great, isn't it? It's all because of what we've done together. He never really wanted to talk about that. Even with his sister, and he wasn't that sort of that guy who wanted to have a heart-to-heart. So he was difficult to get to know, but obviously just a complete nutcase and just made you laugh all the time. All the time. Well,
that's great. So do you think he had a certain skill for... You said he brought other people out themselves. He had a skill for spotting talent, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly true on the comedy circuit, comedy world, but much more than that. So he actually said to me once that I really admire mild and meek people. I was a bit confused by that. Do you know what I mean? There was a couple of characters around. Ronnie Box is another guy who's incredibly sort of inside himself and doesn't really talk much and stuff like that. And Malcolm adopted him as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. He just sort of like knew that just because you were quiet and in the corner and in the shadows didn't necessarily mean that you didn't have something to offer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's very interesting. So he was like this big figure that sort of brought other people into that.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Also, he was a little bit, I mean, when we first started, he was a little bit sort of shy himself, believe it or not.
Yeah. Well, that's often the way, isn't it? When people are extroverted. So what else happened there? So you did this tour, and then...
Several tours, yeah.
Where did it go from there?
Well, then that's when Malcolm started getting really serious about comedy and started opening up the club. And so that's when the Tunnel Club came about.
And then I've got the Comedy Store in here as well.
Right.
So this is the current venue.
Yeah.
But the original venue was somewhere on Dean Street, right?
Yeah, Nell Green
above
Club.
A strip club. We couldn't locate exactly where it was.
No, above
somewhere along here. But what are your memories of there?
Well, we were just addicted to it. So every Saturday night we'd go out in our area, drink until the pubs closed, and then we used to head up to the Comedy Store. And it's full of people like Pamela Stevenson, Rick Mail, 20th Century Coyote, which was Nigel Planer, and I can't remember the other guy, Aid Edmondson, of course, Alexei Sale, Tony Allen, Keith Allen, and it was just sort of, again, like brand new and quite frightening. Do you know what I mean? It was really frightening. But interspersed with those people, all the famous ones, there was acts like ourselves. So there's a guy who set up a stand and a violin and did a very old sort of routine about, trying to get the music stands up properly, and then he never actually played the violin. And there was another guy, Arnold Brown and Norman Lovett, did a couple of spots down there. So it was all brand new and fresh and exciting. And you just saw immediately, like, oh, okay, There was TV execs in there all the time. It was.
And how did that feel because before it was like this total underground thing, right? And when the TV guys started showing up, how did that feel?
Well, then the nature of the beast took over, really. You know what I mean?
Was there an air of competition
there? Not in the beginning. Not in the beginning, no, because it was just a group of performers. I know there are other performers around, but doing other things, but this was specifically comedy, and they just took the whole lot and put the whole lot on television. So there was no competition because all the competition were on the bloody TV with you, you know what I mean? Wow. But then immediately that happened, then a boom, a real interest started happening in comedy. So you got lots and lots of young comedians coming along wanting to be, on telly as well. So it was that, was the sort of defining moment, really. I can't remember Boom Boom Out Go the Lights, I think was the very first programme they made with those guys. And so, it all changed, and everybody wanted to be on telly rather than wanting to be on stage and have a great time.
Yeah. And you were on TV multiple times, right, doing the Great Shaun legs?
Yeah.
How was it the first time you were on TV?
How was it the first time we were on TV? It was well, the nature of the Great Shaun legs is fuck it. That's the catchphrase. It was Malcolm's catchphrase as well, of course. But so we didn't care. We didn't care, and we did have some very funny sort of incidents happen with Thames Television. They said, we want you to do that sketch, and we just refused. We said, no, you've booked us, act a scene. And so we stood up to these people. I don't think anyone would do that nowadays, you know what I mean? You'd just be dead in the water. And so they relented and said, okay, do what sketch you want. And that worked really well for us, So we could, there was the Tube, we did loads of little short inserts in that. Game for a Laugh, of course, OTT, which is the balloon dance. So, and it was just a succession of programs because we had these ideal sort of like sketches that were sort of 2-3 minutes long. Do you know what I mean? So they could be inserted real easy. A lot of them could be adapted to something that was, the theme of the program, perhaps. And we did loads of them, and then all the English lot sort of dried up for us, and then we just got the whole thing again on the continent. Basically, doing all these Euro trash.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what do you think it is, going back to the Great Shaun legs, what do you think it, because that particular sketch.
Yeah.
What is it about that just caught everyone's imagination? Because that went, as you say, it went all around the world, right?
Yeah. Well, what's his name? Chris Thingabob.
Chris Tarrant?
Chris Tarrant, yeah. He gets all the money for that.
Really?
It's been shown on every TV, I should imagine, in the land at some stage, all over the world. And from what I heard, Malcolm told me, I said, why aren't we getting repeats for this? Because we get phone calls. Hey, Mark, I'm in Australia and you've just been on the telly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think, Malcolm told me that he refused to sell the balloon dance sketch to them. He said, but for the same amount of money, you can have the old programme and chuck all the rest away. Thereby circumnavigating the contract, and we got no, repeats.
Yeah.
So he's been cashing in. Must be a huge earner for him. I never really got bitter or cynical about it, but just every now and again going, it'd be lovely to have, a bit of that money behind us, you know what I mean? So, that's what happened to that. What happened? Why? I think it was just sort of male nudity, It was Romans in Britain, which was controversial because it had some male nudity in it. And it's 3 blokes, and there was nothing actually sexual about it at all. Very, very simple. Malcolm's face is a picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was watching one version of it before you came over, and I noticed how Malcolm was famous for having massive balls, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed on this particular cut of it, they kept having to censor, because obviously you could see his dick underneath the balloon, so it's like blurred
editing
out.
it.
Yeah. That was funny. So what else we got? So what else was happening when alternative comedy was kicking off? Would that be, what else was happening kind of culturally at that time?
Culturally,
what was London like as a place, and how has it changed?
Oh God. Well,
a couple of hours.
More traffic, it's the same, isn't it? I mean, like where I live in Peckham now, it's just like it seems like we can't get it right. Do you know what I mean? You can't get gentrification right. You can't get the infrastructure right, and you go to the continent and they do it properly over there. Do you know what I mean? So what happens over here, and that's what's happening to London. It's spreading and spreading and spreading. That gentrification now, it's just about, each sort of council are actively encouraging their, the social side of their thing out of the borough, so they don't have to pay for, invalids, carriages and mental health and all the rest of it. So they're trying to gentrify it so their bill goes down, their social bill goes down, I guess. Yeah. It's what I really do believe. So, yeah, it's great because I'm meeting those young people and, people from the continent all over the world. But, it's driving out, the character of London. And in that, it's still, in those days, Soho was sort of like a good place to go. You know what I mean?
Soho's that's really suffered from that phenomenon, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's
even just in my time, it's like changed loads.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go up there, centre of town there at all, because it's just a hassle. It's difficult to get out of London. You know what I mean? Out the centre, and just masses of people, and everywhere's crowded and extortionately expensive. So it's all that side of it's bad. But there are those characters, you know what I mean, that are missing. The dingy sort of run-down bits, that, especially around like the Tower of London, Tower Bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, they were warehouses and they were empty, and we used to play in them. And now they're all apartments and stuff like that. And sometimes that sort of, I find it really like quite beautiful, like urban decay, if it's sort of like in the, the right sort of environment. Do you know what I mean? But that side of London's definitely missing. I know it had to change, but we don't get it right, We never get it right, and that's what's annoying, So it's changed.
You're in Peckham now, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at that. Oh no, this is where your gig is, isn't it?
Well, yeah, so I've just stopped performing there. I'm now at Nun's Head, but yeah, beautiful back room there, golden curtains. I think it was basically the home of drag just shortly before the war, I think. And so they've done this really over-the-top gay stage with gold lame curtains and red velvet everywhere. And it's really great. It's got a little dressing room. It's now owned by the community, and basically it's a very unhappy pub.
Very unhappy pub?
Yeah.
Why?
It's run by committee.
Oh, okay, that'll be why.
They're not very...
Is that why you moved out of there?
Yeah, I wasn't happy there.
Yeah.
They don't contribute to the show at all. Of course, I'm not going to make a fortune. Not even like a few drinks for the acts or anything like that. So...
if I was to walk to your house, how would we go?
Back this way.
The other way,
yeah.
Let's walk to your area and you can tell me about that.
Up here. Then you turn right at the top. So, yeah, but the Nun's Head, they said, come and do it here. And they pay us, they give us free drinks, they look after us. You stop right here, go up a little, press past the zebra crossing here, turn right, that little thing there, see that, now back? Yeah, that. So that used to sell tickets for the tram.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the tram, this was the end of the tram line. So it used to go around in a sort of circle just there. That's why there's that bit there. And pull up here. So trams, that's the other,
wow.
And that's sort of bit part of history, really. Not very interesting, but I find it fascinating.
Like
Peckham Park is brilliant. So carry on down here.
How long have you been in this area?
35 years now.
Oh, wow, ages.
Yeah. So both my daughters grew up here. Apparently this is where Boadicea fell to the Romans over there.
Just around here?
Yeah.
Exactly there?
No. So, yeah, Rye Lane, which is the brilliant sort of market trading place. And I live just up here.
Down there,
Yeah, down there. Right. You won't be able to get to it that way, I don't think, though, with the camera. It's behind those terrible flats, yeah. In a very similar to house to where I grew up. But it's a beautiful place, Peckham. Moved there because it was cheap and, unpleasant, and now it's the epicenter of trendydom.
So nice. Everyone I know has moved there.
Yeah. I mean, how they can afford it, I've got no idea. But it's still got those itinerant traders down Rye Lane, which are I love, and I've learnt about food from all over the planet, basically, from people down there. This is the actual, what they call common, and then the park, which was a very famous Victorian promenading park, is just over there behind a bunch of trees. You won't be able to get in there. But Rye Lane, which is now sort of like halal butchers, pound shops, etc., loads of fruit and veg. That used to be the second most posh street in London.
Yeah.
Next to Oxford Street, because they used to have 4 department stores down Rye Lane.
Yeah.
So up until I think to the First World War, they used to put on the Sunday best and stroll up and down Rye Lane to impress people, and then on a Sunday go to the park. So it was a centre for sort of the wealthy, and then became very impoverished and poor, and now has ended up being wealthy again.
That's it. That's London all over, isn't it? Up and down. And...
Yeah, there's a black guy just down the road from me.
Yeah.
And he moved into the house when he was a child with his parents, came over from Jamaica. And he was talking to me. He said, when I first moved here, we were the only black faces in the street because it was just all Irish.
Yeah.
But gradually they moved out over the years, and it filled up with all black, and we were all Black Street. And he said, you know what? Once again, I'm the only black face in the street.
Wow, that's amazing, isn't it? One person can... Yeah,
his house is worth £1 million.
Wow.
So obviously he's going to sell up and then retire to Jamaica.
Yeah.
So London just changes. I've got no faith in it. Do you know what I mean? I never thought I'd live anywhere else, but I now actively want to get out. Really do.
So you don't enjoy living here?
I do enjoy living there.
You must feel a connection to it. You've been there for a long time.
Yeah, I do. I do love living there, but there's better places to live now, you know what I mean? I want to live somewhere that's a bit more stable, because I can see what's going to happen. It was like everywhere else, Starbucks are moving, Costa Coffee, Subway, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Next thing you'll get, which me and Malcolm were guilty of, what we used to do is go from Lewisham, where we used to live, up to Blackheath on a Friday or Saturday night and try and get off with a posh bird, right? Yeah. So these Blackheath at night used to get mobbed.
Gentrification, led by your...
Mobbed by like a load of yobs, basically. Yeah. And that's what's happening down Rye Lane,
Really?
On a Friday and Saturday night now, you get loads of screaming kids, basically, and, drunk and throwing up in the shop doorways and shit like that. So, and then that'll go, and we'll be back to sort of like being poor again, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just can't maintain the...
As you say, there's no way to stop that.
Yeah.
That wave, isn't it? Because everyone wants to move into an area because it's nice, untouched, authentic, nice area, and then they move in and then it changes and it's what we liked is gone now.
Yeah.
And it's but there's no way. I don't see how you can stop that.
There's people that are insistent that they want to live by Peckham Rye Station. And you go, why? I know you have to catch a train, in the morning to go to work, but go 10 minutes away and get out of the action, because you're just going to, you're going to wake up, open your door, and there's going to be puke or urine or whatever, I almost killed myself on those legal high drug things, you know what I mean? Not by taking them, by stepping on one and going arse over tit, those little cans.
They're little laughing gas. Yeah.
And there's millions just strewn all over the Rye Lane. It's crazy.
Well, still, the kids have got to take them, right, to have their enlightenment.
Well, they should
like you did it when you were sitting in the tree, right?
Yeah, they should take proper drugs, though. That's what they should do.
Well, maybe that's what you should do. You should
sell proper drugs.
Sell acid to the gentrifiers.
Don't think so.
So how how do you feel about the state of comedy today? Do you see yourself a little bit separate?
I do. Yeah. I'm not a good person to ask, really, because I'm in a little bubble of myself, my own, So, how do I feel about it? I really don't know. I just, all the time, I'm looking for something that will turn me on, And a lot of the younger performers coming along now, some of them are really, really exciting, and they've got that. It's something different, you know what I mean, about them. But I get very tired. I sometimes feel like I'm on the conveyor belt of comedy, you know what I mean? I love it, but as for the state of comedy, I'm not a good person to ask because I really don't know, you know. I don't travel around like you guys anymore, you know, because it's pointless, really. So I often go to places where I want to go on holiday, do you know what I mean? And try and get a gig around there.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So that's the way I sort of treat comedy. But if you know, like, I don't watch comedy on television. There's only a couple of people that I, you know, sort of like really. I'm a huge fan of Oren Meaton. I don't know if you know them. So they're actors as well, and they've done some really extraordinary work on video, and always have done. They've got an amazing live act as well. And I love those guys, yeah. And they continually excite me, do you know what I mean? Really, really turn me on every time I see them. I'm not saying a lot of these acts don't, do you know what I mean? It's just sort of like, I can tell, like, sometimes they're getting tired, do you know what I mean? Because a lot is asked of you guys now. You're going, traveling, you know, across London, which isn't a picnic, and quite expensive, doing these gigs, and you get paid nothing for it. You know what I mean? Absolutely nothing. I mean, I find it infuriating. You know what I mean? I really do. So that's how comedy has changed, and that's the state of comedy. Is that simple fact that there's not any money to be earned out of it. But who's making all the money? It's, you know, like the Edinburgh Fringe. It's all the university, all the breweries. You know what I mean? So one thing I've got going for me is that, you know, the Nun's Head who know me, you know, they respect me. And they, you know, I've been doing it for 10 years now, so I can demand the price, you know what I mean? So I can then pass that on to my acts. So I don't pay them a fortune, but at least I make sure that I can buy drinks and, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I just
treat them fairly, yeah.
Yeah. So that's state of comedy. But I am doing it again myself now. So I stopped touring my sort of stand-up act, as you could call it, if you could call it that. I'm practicing going out and doing odd 10 minutes here and there, and I'm really enjoying that. So I want to get back on the road again for you know,
nice.
travel around a bit. So yeah.
So then you get tapped back into it again, and then I'll ask you.
Yeah, but I won't be doing you know, regular gigs.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So we're almost at the end now, but I think a good place to end it. Something that I'd like to do at the end.
We're not. Oh yeah.
Oh, Bimbo Town. Actually, we didn't talk about this, did we?
So
tell people that don't know what's Bimbo Town. Where are we in the world?
This is in formerly communist Germany, East Germany, a place called Leipzig, historic for its music and universities before the war. Extraordinary place, full of huge boulevards, and there's the Noch Besser Leben, which is we did a show. Oh, no, it's not. Yes, it must be. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Where we did some shows in the upstairs room there. So we put on shows in Leipzig. Extraordinary city. I adore it. And it's got loads of lovely features. Architecture being one. But there's this club, and how I was introduced to Leipzig was a friend of mine from years ago called Jim Whiting opened up this club called Bimbo Town. And it is a ex-weaving shed, so you can imagine what it's like. Fast, but as everything in Germany is, if you imagine one of our weaving sheds, it's 100 times bigger than that. So I've worked in the venue as well as done shows. I helped him fix machinery and stuff like that, and we used to have bikes to travel from, you know, the kitchen or toilets to where we were working.
Really?
It was that big. Lord. And he filled it. He's a kinetic artist using industrial-sized sort of machinery, and he's got a huge air compressor in the centre of this factory, and it feeds all these different machines. For example,
it's kind of like animatronics, right?
Animatronic, but all sorts. So there's one example of my very first time sitting in the club saying, wow, I've got to perform here. I can't see this working at all, you know, because I'm nowhere near as interesting as that thing over there. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was sitting on this seat, and I had a pint of lager, and I was looking around, and I just noticed everyone grabbed their pint at the same time and moved the pint away. And it was so quick, I didn't have any time to say why they doing that. When these 6 ex-GDR army greatcoats on a wire, travelling around the whole thing, swept all the bar clean, including my pint. That's going on all the time. It takes about 20 minutes to get around the whole venue.
Yeah.
You've got the seats that you sit on, they're tractor seats. So I was just about to take a sip of lager, and the seat goes out a metre.
Oh, Lord.
So it's nothing is what it seems. You sit on a sofa. The sofa literally swallows you and deposits you on a bed, which then travels through all these different scenarios. And so it's like a bed ride. There's about, I think it was 20 beds all on a chain just moving around the venue.
That sounds insane.
There's a dark avenue that you walk along, and you set off some sort of like laser beam, and these sort of animatronic sort of monsters made out of dustbin lids and shit like that come towards you trying to eat you. And it's just insane, but it's extraordinary. It's the best club I've ever been to in my life.
Is it still running now?
Leipzig City Council said the ceiling was 2 inches too low to give him a license. So he can't open. He used to open sort of like maybe twice a month. Because it took ages to repair.
And how does he fund it all? Just through selling tickets?
Well, he's an artist. Yeah, you sold. Yeah, you could buy in there. So and it's famous all over Leipzig. But but I think he's given a license to put on sort of 12 shows a year. So he opens it up more as a sort of museum. But he opens up the bar, and it's just glorious food. It's sort of like really bog standard German, fare. You know what I mean? So you go in there, and they come and slap these plates of potatoes and greens and meat, and then bang, they have lager like that, and it's really hospitable. That's hospitable. So first of all,
amazing. So how did you end up performing there? What was your?
Well, he rang me up and said, "Mark, do you want to come over and do a show?"
Oh,
so
great.
I
and
went
you
in there.
You didn't know him, or?
Oh, what, Jim Whiting? Yeah, I knew him from years back when I met him at Edinburgh Festival, years ago. When he was doing some sort of mechanical ticket delivery device. I don't know, some robot that came round and gave you your tickets after you paid. So I met him there, and he said, "Come over and do the show." And I looked at him and I thought, this is not going to work. But it's really strange. The German sort of audience, they respect anybody that does anything live. So he switches off.
Very respectful.
Yeah, so he switched off the generator, so then the whole club went quiet, do you know what I mean? And because plus your sort of DJ music as well. And they all gathered around and sat on the floor, and it went down really well. So I've done about half a dozen shows there now. But every time I went back to Leipzig, I found out a little bit more about it, its history. And this is where me and my wife want to go and maybe spend a couple of years, not retirement, I wouldn't say, but go and spend a couple of years. So if you've got time, but I'll just flog Leipzig one more time to you. And that is they had 2 canals that were being built, one from the north, one from the south, that were going to join and meet at Leipzig. And it was going to be the largest navigable waterway in Germany. And so they had all the land allotted for all the warehouses and service vehicles and stuff like that. And that would, make the thing operate as a sort of like a bit of a port, you know what I mean, in the middle of the country. Desperately needed, because Germany's got very small sort of like coastline. Anyway, Hitler comes to power. He hates that part of Saxony because they consider themselves to be Saxons, and puts a stop to the building of the canals. And it still to this day, they're 300 metres apart. And obviously the buildings went into disrepair, all the land, and it was the Second World War, nothing happened to it. But now it's green, it's full of trees. And wherever you go in Leipzig, you say, "Oh, let's go so-and-so." You just jump on your bike, bang, turn left, into this green avenue, cycle all the way up, over the bridge, bush, bang, there you are. So it's like, they call it the green lung.
Wow. Can we find it? Isn't it?
Yeah. Sure you can. So it's perfect for like festivals,
This thing?
Yeah, it's massive.
Would it be that or no?
Yeah, but you can get if you can get a bigger, I think it's down here, yeah, a bit more. I think it's over that way a bit. as you can see, there's loads of green. Now, I think we're going to have to get it smaller so you can see it. You get a bigger thing of Leipzig. There you go. Look, it starts there and goes all the way through.
This thing?
Yeah, this is Canal. Yeah. Loads and loads of green.
Look at it like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's smack bang in the middle of Leipzig.
Wow.
So you cycle all the way along, and there's a couple of buildings here and there, but basically it's just all park. So it's like perfect festival city. The first people who utilised it, and really have the only ones to this day really, are the Goths. Because they were straight over there when the wall came down.
Yeah.
Oh, look at these beautiful pillars here, Look at those.
Oh,
They're
wow.
German, communist. And is this the Palast? There's one there. Yeah. No. So if we go round again, sorry. Oh, no, I've lost it. I think it's up here on the right. So we got another gig coming up we've promised to do in the Palast. I'm not sure this is the right bridge.
Wow, so you're like big in Leipzig.
Oh, man, yeah. It is just so... And they've got their regeneration correct. So they said, oh, OK, Costa, you can come, but you're only allowed in the square mile around the main Hauptbahnhof.
Yeah.
Right?
Controlled it.
Yeah. So on all the suburbs, they said, no corporate. And that's the council. It's not sort of like the local residents demanding it. It's the council. When the wall came down, all the Germans and Japanese bought up all the buildings. And immediately they said, oh, there's nothing to do here. There's only 15% after the wall came down occupied. It was 100% when the wall was up. Went down to 15%. Everyone fucked off, of course, thinking the wall was going to come back up. So they had Germans and the Japanese and the Americans had all these buildings and just letting them stand. So the Leipzig City Council, right, if you own a building, it's the law. You've got to have a great roof on it. So right from day one, they protected the buildings that make up the city beauty, basically. And yeah, it's still only up to something like 35% occupied. So there's loads and loads of houses, and they got a scheme. You go in, you do a part buy. And they give you some money to get materials and stuff like that. You do up the first floor. Some of them turn it into some sort of shop and then open up, start trading, start making money, and then move up one level because they're 5 and 6 stories high.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
Wow. I think you should do it, man.
What?
If you don't, I will. Move out there.
Yeah, I'm desperate.
Sounds brilliant.
And it's got the largest tram system in Europe.
You like trams?
I fucking love trams.
You see it there, man.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I think what would be nice to do, what I like to do before we end it, is sort of go back and visit places. So if you... Hang on a sec. This is Colchester, right?
Yeah.
So if you could So you say that when you were a teenager there, you went a bit off the rails. I mean, it sounds like that might have been quite a good experience in a way, actually.
What, going off the rails?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was for me.
It's
like I called it my university education.
Yeah. Sounds like it was brilliant. Everything started from that tree.
Yeah.
But if you could go back there, if you could sort of speak to the younger you and give you some advice, what would you say? Like a time traveller. If you saw you walking along the street there.
Yeah. Some advice.
When you were like 15 years old.
I probably would have said something, stop fucking around. Stop fucking around and never take amyl nitrate. I wouldn't know what to say to my younger self, because I tell you what, I'm not much wiser than I was when I was 16, basically.
Maybe you could ask him for some advice.
I'd certainly ask him if I could borrow some money, because that 16-year-old had money.
Yeah.
I was working. Not that I don't work now, but I largely don't get paid for my work. Yeah. But yeah, I had money, and also I'd say keep that Triumph 5TA Speed Twin you've got, because it's going to be worth a lot of money in the future. And I don't think I obviously put loads of feet wrong, but I don't think any of it was sort of like detrimental. It only pushed me, forward really. So I'm just as daft as I am now.
That's good. I think that's a good way to be. All right, I think that'll do.
Thank you very much, David.
Thanks for coming around. So now what we do is we zoom out.
Oh wow.
look at the world. I've been Dave Green. He's been Martin Soan. This has been Dave Green's Street View Show. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you again next time.